Welcome to TRS, everyone. We're excited this week to welcome Loretta Walsh, best known for her role as Florence on When Calls the Heart. Loretta has been entertaining on screen and stage for over 20 years, and she is with us live. Welcome to the show, Loretta.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, it's amazing to have you.
Yeah, we are live with Loretta this evening. So if any Hearties out there want to jump in, chat, we're on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram today, Josh. Feel free to jump out. We'll take questions in a little bit. Also, we had some fantastic interviews earlier this week with Tanya Meme, and some upcoming videos are going to be posted with Ben Emmanuel. He was awesome. So check those out on the other channel as well. Thanks.
Yeah, and Loretta is here also to talk about her upcoming play with Ben Emmanuel. The Lifespan of a Fact. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into that towards the end of the show, so stick around, learn about it. We're going to definitely also dig in on the show you guys are all, I'm sure, here to watch. But we all want to talk with Loretta about Loretta. And by the way, Loretta, I think you're the first Loretta I've ever talked to.
Oh, wow. It's not a very common name. I've met a few Lorettas over the years, but not that many.
I used to be that way with Nathaniel. There weren't a lot of Nathaniels when I was growing up, and now they're everywhere. Nates, Nathans, we're infecting the earth. It's great.
Yeah, it's a good name.
I love Loretta. I grew up watching Loretta sweat, so it's a common name, but I've never met a Loretta, so it's great to meet you.
Yes, thank you. It's so nice to meet you too.
You grew up in Australia. Can you tell me about your life there?
Oh, yes. I grew up in rural Queensland, which is, it's not quite the outback, but it is the country. And so I grew up on a farm. My dad was a farmer, and I have 3 siblings and was born and raised in small town, Australia, until I moved to Sydney as an adult and met my husband, who's Canadian, and then ended up moving to Canada.
Okay.
But, yeah, my growing up on a farm was sort of an interesting experience. It was very much, I guess, from a young age, it helped me because it meant there wasn't that much to do. So I had to use my imagination, to play and create things and make shows for everybody. And I really appreciate it now, when I go back, and it's very peaceful and very beautiful. But I did know from a young age, okay, I think I'm not going to be here forever. I think that there's a big world out there, and I think that there's lots of other things to discover. But it has certainly helped me in my work, on Calls the Heart. I grew up in a Hope Valley kind of place. Like a small town in which everybody knows each other, and everybody is about community, and everyone knows everybody's business,
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sure that probably had some effect on me, ending up on that show.
Yeah, that's amazing. I grew up in a small town as well. I had cows for neighbors. I had bigger dreams, and I moved closer to the city, but not too much further. And I still love going back and seeing just a bunch of trees and farms and rivers with nobody anywhere near me. So I get that feeling, and I also remember the imagination was a big part of growing up. You had to entertain yourself. You had to do things and kind of make your own world sometimes, which I can imagine just goes. I should have went into acting, I think.
Well, it's never too late, Nathan.
Maybe. I can't remember lines. That's my problem. That's a lot of work.
That is a part of it. That is a part of it. No getting around learning those lines.
Yeah, they can't. Well, no, I can't. I got in some trouble recently by saying I didn't like Vegemite, so I'm going to take a different tact.
Oh.
I'm going to try again. What about fairy bread? Is that something I should try?
Oh no. I'm quite. I have a daughter myself, and I think that's something that as children we were all subjected to fairy bread, which for those of you who don't know, it is bread, usually white bread with butter, and then with sprinkles, like hundreds of thousands put all over this bread. I don't know who invented the magical fairy bread.
Someone who had bread and sprinkles.
Ate it. We totally ate it. Now I'm quite horrified. Now I'm like, oh no, I would never give that to my kid. That's pretty judgmental. But Yeah, that's one of the delicacies of Australia I don't tend to recommend.
Okay, so but you do. I should try the Vegemite again.
Listen, the Vegemite it has to be done in a very, very specific way. And I also think it's probably something that if you didn't have as a child, it's going to be a bigger leap, as you're an adult. People make mistakes with it because they treat it like
I do.
peanut butter and they like slather it on. And it's like, no, 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 no. You got to have some nice bread, toast it, put some butter on it, and then just a little scratch of it. So it's kind of salty. But
I
yeah,
did it wrong.
I haven't had Vegemite in a really long time. Case in point, I had family members come and visit me probably about 6 months ago, and they're from Australia, and they took the Vegemite out of my pantry and started to eat it and went, kind of tastes a little bit funny. It had expired 13 years ago. Like I had moved that Vegemite to multiple places, paid for it to move, and that's how little Vegemite I eat. Is that I didn't realize, and I almost, poisoned my family members with expired Vegemite. So anyway, that's not a great commercial for it at all, but it's an acquired taste, and you get a lot of it, and it lasts a very long time.
Okay, so that's the check. I think I used I believe I used a lot actually.
Not like peanut butter, just a little scratch.
Okay, so thank you. Whenever you're back in Australia, what's one of the first things you do?
Oh, I get a coffee. The coffee in Australia, it's really good anywhere you go. If you go to the airport, if you go to a gas station, it is amazing coffee. You can really always get like a really legit high quality coffee anywhere in Australia. And so I notice it's a little bit different here. People have their favorite coffee places, and then sometimes you can't go anywhere for a nice cup of coffee, right?
Yeah.
So that's usually the first thing I do. Also, I'm usually incredibly jet lagged by the time I arrive. It's a long flight from Canada. So yeah, I'm like, give me my caffeine fix, and it feels very comforting and very good.
Nice. That's the reason I haven't went so far. It's if I'm going for at least 2 weeks. It's not like a weekend. It's not a week. If you're doing that trip, I'm staying for a while.
You got to. It's too far.
And there's so much.
So much. It would be like saying, come to Canada or come to the US and just do it in a week. It's like, what are you talking about? It's massive and very, very diverse. And what are you interested in? And it also is such a large place that it takes time to get from one place to the other. So I recommend, if you're going to go, to really, yes, take some time, take a month if you can.
Yeah.
Want to do, because it's a beautiful place and I miss it very, very much. There's that saying and that song, I still call Australia home, and I think that's really, for most Australians who leave Australia, most of them have a plan to go back. There is something really unique about that country and unique about the culture there. It's certainly not without its problems, as everywhere is, and there's certainly things to work on and things to evolve and things to change there. But it is a unique place, and there is really, in the culture, this sort of no worries, mate thing is really quite true. There's an easygoingness, to the culture there and to the people there. People there are very, very friendly too. So I miss it. And just the sun and the weather, and my family members, of course.
Of course.
I try to go and visit as much as I can.
That's amazing. I wonder if I'll want to leave after seeing even some of it. I'm kind of in love with the idea of Australia, and I don't see how it wouldn't hold up.
Yeah, for the most part, I don't know that I've ever really met anybody who's been there who was like, it's all right. Most people are like, oh wow, like it was beautiful, and like the food and the sun and the beaches, and there's a lot to see there.
Someday I will. I promise. I'm going to call you first and get your top 10 places to go and see. I don't do the tourist thing. I like seeing what the locals and people who are already in love with the place, what they do, because I think that's the authentic experience when you go somewhere.
Yeah, for
Like, where
sure.
do you eat pizza?
That's
That's where I
right.
want to eat pizza. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, you want to get the inside scoop.
Yeah. So, hey, when you met your husband as an adult, and he's from Canada, and you moved, about how long ago was this? How long have you been in Canada? I'm sorry.
Oh, in Canada, I've been here for 23 years.
Married 23 too, or you got married in Canada, or
We got married in Canada in 2007. So I think we've been married for 17 years. But no,
congratulations.
I met him like Sydney 2000, all of those decades ago. Oh my gosh, isn't that crazy? I'm showing my age.
I'm on
But
25 years.
what's that?
I'm on 25 years myself, and yes, I don't feel like I'm 25 years old some days, let alone married for 25 years.
Yeah, the time, it really goes very quickly, doesn't it? They always say that. The time, the days are long, the years are short, like all of that stuff. I
Yes.
certainly say that about parenthood. No, so he was finishing his undergraduate in Sydney, and I was living there after having gone to acting school in Queensland. I had been to university and done an acting program for a few years. And then I knew I was going to move to either Sydney or Melbourne because I was looking for, some great theatre and some where the industry is. And those are really kind of the hot spots. I know that Queensland now has a ton of production and things going on, but at the time, Sydney was really the place. And I had my best friend living there. And so it sort of became the logical choice to go to Sydney. But being a young actor and doing a bunch of plays at night, I had to have a day job. That's just the reality of the situation. We don't all, graduate from theatre school and all of a sudden get on a TV series and are making enough money to live. It's very, that's just the practicality of this business. But we both were working as bartenders at this bar on the beach in Sydney, and that's how we met. And we were in our early 20s, and so we were just partying and having a great time and going out and living a lifestyle that was really deeply not healthy. We grew out of that for sure. But we knew each other for quite some time actually, and then our relationship changed, and he had to come back to Canada because of obligations at home. And I made the decision very, very quickly to move. I tend to make quick decisions that generally work out for me.
Lucky for him too.
Just instinctually, I kind of go, I think I'm going to come. Do you want me to come? And he's like, yes, come in. Come. Let's be together. Let's see what happens, right? And in your early 20s, that's such a good time to take a chance, right? It's
exactly.
like, okay.
That's when you do it. And I'm glad it worked out. It's a big, big decision, and you were able to do it with a lighter heart, and then it still worked. I love hearing stories like that.
I didn't realize how big a decision it was until years later, I think.
Yeah, your adult brain's like, whoa, what were you thinking?
That's exactly right.
So much could have went bad.
That's exactly right. And so, but man, I've really have a beautiful life here in Canada. My husband and I are happy. We have a daughter. We have a rascal dog. I've had wonderful opportunities to work here, and I'm really, really grateful. And so Canada has been very, very good to me. And, I just try and stay connected to my family, and I try and spend time in Australia when I can, but it's the thing of being I'd never really thought of myself as an immigrant. Oh, and it's like, oh yes, of course. I had to immigrate here. And so that is, that's interesting because sometimes you can have a little bit of an identity crisis. Who am I? Am I Australian? Am I Canadian? Where do I belong?
After a certain amount of time, you feel like you have the ownership of where you live. Like you have a say. You're in the community. Obviously, you're a part of many communities when you live there. And then there's still some othering going on sometimes, and it's hard to overcome it. even in your own head, even if it's not actual, you feel it sometimes, I can imagine.
Yeah, it is. And I think I think, I went through sort of really decades of time trying to fit in, trying to, as an actor in particular, lose my Australian accent and sort of assimilate to, okay, how do people do it, how do people speak, how do people act, how do people, what kind of cultural references are people having here in North America that I did not have, because I grew up in a place very far from here. And so I think it's really only recently that I've embraced who I really am as an Aussie, living abroad and saying, hey, I'm not going to hide that I'm from a different place.
Good.
This is who I am. And I'm an actor, so I can play different parts. And I'm actually really excited because the play that we're doing coming up, I'm actually using my natural accent for the first time in a show, in a really, I think probably in 23 years. And so it's actually really thrilling to me to be able to do that, because it eliminates some mental gymnastics of speaking in a dialect.
Now, I do have a question about that, and I didn't prepare for this, but if I were to speak with an Australian accent, it would come off as a parody, almost insulting. So I don't do it. When you speak with a North American accent, as an actor, of course, was there ever a point where you felt like you were parodying or it was possibly insulting? Because you do it really well.
Thank you.
People who watch the show, who hear you speak naturally, might not even quite get it. That's
Right.
how good your acting is with that accent. How do you go through that process, like when you had to start doing it?
Yeah, I felt, I started in Toronto, which is where my husband was living. And so that was my first sort of Canadian stop. And we lived there for 6 years before moving out west to Vancouver. But I absolutely felt like a total imposter when it came to, I just thought, oh my goodness, people are going to know that I don't belong here. They're going to hear it. I'm going to get busted like so quickly. And my husband at the time, not my husband at the time, my husband, he said at the time, he said, you should just try and copy the people who are on TV. Like, you should try and copy the newscasters. You should try and copy the people.
Newscasters, great one.
Friends, because Friends was so huge, in the early 2000s. And so I'm a pretty good mimic. And so I would just do that. And then I would go on little tests. Like I would take a cab and I would just be like, okay, I'm going to do my North American accent and see if anybody goes, where are you from? I would go and get coffee. I would just try and do it in the accent and see if I could get away with it. And then, I did start to get some more confidence as I continued, and as I was able to get some jobs using a North American accent. And yeah, I'm sure that Al Miro probably talked to you about his series and
a little bit,
and having an accent, in a different country and how that can impact, an acting career. I think we're in a place now in the industry where we're having different voices is wanted.
I'm glad for that. We got away from character actors in television a lot, and in movies, either as a character actor, they looked weird, they didn't look like everybody on the street or whatever it was, and they got rid of that. I would like to see at least different voices or different nationalities represented, so we mix up the screen. Instead of that guy looks like all these other people sort of with the same haircut, can we at least have them be different in other ways? And I would love to see that. And I remember speaking with Al about that, saying I think we're now a more educated society in that we can accept when a character is written in a book a certain way, but they have an actor who might not fit that description. We understand that they're an actor playing that role, and we don't have to get everything exactly 100% correct. And I hope we're moving forward in that the audience is intelligent enough to realize this is an actor playing a character. It doesn't have to be 100%. We can change something in our head. It's fine.
Yes, and it's tricky, isn't it? Because,
Hmm.
we all, if you read a book, and I know, people who create series and movies that are based on books, the fans usually have a lot of opinions. If it gets made in a way that they didn't see it that way in their head, so it's a really interesting thing. But yes, absolutely, I think that we're here to evolve, my goodness, and let everybody have a seat at the table and to be represented on
Yeah.
screen. Absolutely.
And if we can reboot an entire series like Star Trek with different actors who are completely different, then we can
Yeah.
do that. Like if you can make that mental jump, you could do it with a different type of person playing this role that you had in your head or saw somebody else do. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to what hopefully we can do or what the world does around this, because I don't see why your voice should stop you from getting any role.
No, I think that, we're just evolving, right?
I
And I
hope
think
so.
sometimes, sometimes we put obstacles in our own way, and sometimes there are actual obstacles. Um, but it is a creative field, and so, some things are just very subjective, aren't they?
Sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't question a casting director's call to only pick people like this, but I think hopefully it's in a lot of their minds that the public could actually handle this.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have a vision. I get it. They deserve to have their vision, so just like I would have mine. So
That's exactly right. It's creative.
have a great one. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Be safe out there. Treat each other well.